The shadow of myself is really gonna distract me. Why does it look like that? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a solar book tag. This is a really fun idea I saw on Instagram and I think it was more popular a couple years ago. It is a way to recommend books wherein every planet, the sun and the moon are included, has a specific prompt, and then of course I need to recommend you guys a book based on that prompt. I thought it was really fun. I'm actually going to split this into 2 videos. I have a lot of books here. They've been sitting on my chair for ages, but I just was in a content slump, and then when I did start filming again, I had a couple other videos I wanted to get out of the way first, but I'm finally doing this video. There are 12 or 11 prompts here. One of them I have 2 books for, so I'm doing the first 5 today and then the other 6 next video. I mentioned in my last video that I would have an update for my driving license, and I passed, but I don't know how I did because the examiner was the meanest person I've ever met, and she genuinely seemed disgusted by me the whole time, and I was shaking throughout the whole thing because she was just so rude. I'm probably gonna do a drive and write with me. The first time I'm gonna drive alone. I drove today, but the first time I'm gonna drive alone, I'll probably go to a cafe to work on my book. So I'll do like a dual vlog where I drive around and then I stop at a cafe and show myself writing, so it'll be half ambience, half talking, and I'll have a little section in the beginning where I tell you guys the details of my driving test. But it was, oh my god, it was so unnecessarily intimidating. Before we start, I want to say please make sure to like and subscribe. The first prompt that we have is The Sun, and it is a book that brings you ultimate joy, and the book I chose for this was Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. This was really hard to choose because, as you guys know, I have a lot of favorite books, A Series of Unfortunate Events, Anna Karenina, but a lot of those other books, I felt as much as I loved them, they didn't bring me joy or happiness in the same way that Harry Potter does. If you don't know, Harry Potter is a book about a boy who was raised by his aunt and uncle quite abusively, and he one day finds out that he's a wizard and he's being sent off to wizarding school. Now, I used to be someone who didn't want to read Harry Potter. I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I had a couple of the books that were passed down from my brother. He had some extras, and I just refused to read it because it was so popular. I thought it would be kind of tacky and annoying and I wouldn't really like it. It's so magical. I'm so glad my sister convinced me to read it. And if you are someone that's like that, then I say watch the first movie or 2. Some people don't like J.K. Rowling's writing style because there's nothing very special about the way that she writes, but in my opinion, the plot and storylines and relationships and characters, everything is so much more detailed and intense in the books, and I love them. I definitely prefer them to the movies, although the movies are, of course, incredible. I'm actually saving a reread of Harry Potter for when I get to uni. There's a couple series and books that I'm saving just because I'm going to be starting a very new era of my life and I want to kind of reconnect with the things I love. But Harry Potter is just so joyful. As the books go on, the plots and storylines get so much deeper and more intense, and there are some very shocking plot twists. Please don't spoil yourself. I read book 4. It was the last book that I read without any spoilers. It was an amazing experience. I stayed up. I was like creeped out. The plot twist was jaw-dropping, and then I just spoiled the rest for myself. And I did read the rest of the books, of course, but it was just all spoiled for me. Try getting it secondhand. J.K. Rowling is Zionist. The next prompt is Mercury, and I had to pick the shortest book that I own, and I chose The Night Has a Thousand Eyes by Francis William Borderland. It's a collection or an anthology of his poetry. So technically this isn't a book, but my next shortest book I put into another prompt, and I want an excuse to talk about this. So Francis William Borderland is a poet who I believe was alive in the 18th century. His poem The Night Has a Thousand Eyes, his most famous poem I believe, was in the end of A Series of Unfortunate Events, and I loved it, and I got this anthology, which I'm so happy I did. This copy was kind of horrendous, so I covered it with papers. Someone asked how I did this. I genuinely just took scrap papers and bought them over onto the inside. stuck them on. But I do like that this copy has some really sweet illustrations as well. I'll read a few of my favorite poems out for you guys. The way that he writes is so particular, it's very charming. He has kind of a slight way with words. It's not very complicated. You don't really need to try to understand what he means, but there is depth in the meanings, and like I said, it's just very charming the way he writes. I'll read The Night Has a Thousand Eyes. The night has a thousand eyes and the day but one, yet the light of the bright world dies with the dying sun. The mind has a thousand eyes and the heart but one, yet the light of a whole life dies when love is done. Let me make sure I got that right. Yes. Like I said, there are some really nice drawings in here. There's one poem that I really liked, and it was the background of my flip phone for a while. Wonderful is the sea and the sky above the hill, but the eyes of the maiden be more wondrous still, for not the nightly skies such depths discover as when she loves her eyes do to her lover. This one is Sapphires. He just has such like a sweetness with the way he writes, and he's absolutely one of my favorite poets. I plan to do a whole video soon. I'm not going to say soon because I always say soon and then it ends up being ages later, but I do really want to do a video on all of my favorite poets, and of course Francis William Borderland is going to be one of them, and I'll talk in a lot more depth about him and his poetry and what I think makes it so special. But I would 100% recommend, and I am definitely going to be looking for more anthologies when I'm in London. Next prompt is Venus, for a book with warm summer vibes. So I chose Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. I don't think I've spoken about this before on my channel in a video that's currently up. I have definitely spoken about it before, but I think I privated some of those videos. But Love and Gelato is one of those books that are kind of corny and they're objectively not very great, but you just love them, and it is 100% very, very summery. So Love and Gelato is about a girl whose mother passes away, and her dying wish is for her to go and see and reconnect with her father, who lives in Italy by a graveyard. And so she goes to live with him. She's of course a bit miserable, but then she starts meeting her neighbors and looking around Italy, and it's very dreamy and sweet. I love the friendships, the romance. There's some particular scenes I really love. There's even a plot twist, which I kind of predicted, but it's at least a plot twist and a plot. I love the food descriptions. Finomino, I love food in books. And there are some actual places in Rome and Italy mentioned here, as well as some historical facts that I really, really liked. I tried reading the second book in this little trilogy, but I wasn't feeling it. I think this is one of those books that the actual formula isn't that great. It doesn't make for a fabulous book, but the particular storyline that she chose and the characters that she chose are just really charming. So I would recommend this for a summery warm book, but I actually picked a second book for this prompt, which is kind of a different kind of summery warm vibe, and that is The Outsider by Albert Camus. So if you don't know, The Outsider, The Stranger is about a man who is quite nihilistic in the sense that he doesn't believe in the point or reason for anything. He goes about his life in this way, and after committing a senseless act of violence, he must face the consequences, even though he doesn't really believe in consequences. He doesn't believe in a moral push, if that makes sense. The first line is of course very famous. He says, "Maman died today or maybe yesterday, I don't know." I'm actually working on an essay which talks about the opening of The Outsider and why it's so special in literature, and then I segue into talking about a poem by Philip Larkin. I really need to work on that and post it on Substack, and then possibly turn it into a video essay. But if you've heard me talk about The Outsider before, you'll know it's not one of my favorites. I was definitely a bit disappointed by it. I expected quite a lot more, and I felt like there was a lot of potential, but at the end of the day I did feel like it was a nice introduction to nihilism. I think I'd definitely recommend a Kafka instead though. It 100% has summery vibes in a very sticky and uncomfortable way. The heat is quite a symbolic and important part of this novel. I want to try some more books by Camus like The Plague, so hopefully I will prefer those to The Outsider. My next prompt is a fantasy world or setting you would love to live in. This is the other prompt that I thought Harry Potter would fit in. If you told me now what is a book world that you want to go into, my answer would 1,000,000% be Harry Potter. But of course I needed to choose a different book, and I chose Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. So if you don't know, Alice in Wonderland is about a girl who falls down a rabbit hole, and she's in an immense wonderland, and she goes around meeting a lot of unique and different characters and realizes that being mad is in fact very charming. Did a video essay a little bit ago about the yellow wallpaper wallpaper and madness as a form of escape in literature, and I want to kind of do a mini series building on that, and Alice in Wonderland is definitely one of those books. Last year my sister, for my birthday, compiled a couple articles and poems and essays that she thought I would like, and I just started reading one of them, which was about madness in Alice in Wonderland as a form of escape. I would choose this as a world I'd want to go into just because of how wondrous it is. There are some really stunning quotes in here. It's so fun and just genuinely the epitome of wonder. The illustrations are of course stunning in here, and they are very purposeful. I love how he plays around with words on a page. This is one of my favorite illustrations at the tea party with the Mad Hatter. So this would definitely be a book and a world that I would want to go into. The last prompt that we're going to talk about in this video is the moon, and I need to pick a book featuring darker, moody, or mysterious themes, and I chose Beasts in the Shadows by Edgar Allan Poe. This is the actual shortest book that I own, and it was my favorite classic of 2025. So Beast in the Shadows is about a man who is a detective author, and he is approached by a woman to get help because she believes she's being stalked by her ex-lover. The story kind of goes on from there. I don't want to give a lot of details. I think it is incredible to go into a little bit blind. The plot kind of goes on and you don't know who's being hunted and who is the hunter, and you are the beast in the shadows. There's incredible symbolism in here. The writing is really good. It's not particularly special on its own, but the way it is creating an image and a storyline, I think, makes up for the kind of boring writing. I think there were a few quotes in there that got me, none that I could point out. I think the really big thing is the story and the plot, and I think maybe the seamlessness of the writing kind of adds to that. He knows how to create an atmosphere, and I really want to read some of his other books, which I've heard are quite disturbing. The ending was really good, and I loved the uncertainty and kind of what it suggested, and I really want to hear other people's thoughts on it as well. This obviously features darker, moody, and mysterious themes, and that is why I chose it. That is it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I will be filming part 2 now, and it'll hopefully come out a couple days after this video is done. I'm also probably in the next couple of days, or whenever I'm allowed to drive out alone, I will do my drive and write with me. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. No, earlier than next week. This is the actual shortest book in my collection. I don't know why I said planets. I could have just said solar system. All the entities in the solar system. That's probably wrong as well.